The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Lisa pushed her cleaning cart down the empty hospital hallway. It was past midnight, and Northwestern Memorial Hospital felt like a different world. During the day, these halls buzzed with doctors, nurses, and worried families. But now, in the quiet hours, it was just her and the soft beeping of machines keeping people alive. Lisa Chen had been cleaning these floors for 3 years. At 42, she knew every corner of this place better than most of the doctors. She knew which rooms had the friendliest patients, which vending machines ate your dollar bills, and exactly how long it took to clean each floor before her shift ended at 6 in the morning. Tonight felt different, though. Maybe it was because her daughter Amy had been extra difficult before school that morning, rolling her eyes when Lisa reminded her about homework. Or maybe it was the stack of unpaid bills sitting on her kitchen table. Either way, Lisa felt heavier than usual as she made her rounds. She stopped outside room 314 and knocked gently. No answer. Most patients in the cancer wing slept heavily thanks to their medications. Lisa had learned to be extra quiet here. These people were fighting battles she couldn't imagine. Inside the room, everything looked normal at first. The bed was empty. Probably another patient transferred to a different floor. Lisa had seen it happen countless times. She began her routine, wiping down surfaces and emptying the small trash bin. That's when she saw it. A piece of paper had fallen between the bed and the nightstand. Lisa bent down to pick it up, thinking it was probably just another hospital form. But as she lifted it, she realized it was a letter. A personal letter written by hand in shaky but careful handwriting. "My dearest Rachel," it began. Lisa knew she shouldn't read it. Patient privacy was serious business at the hospital. But something about the words drew her in. Maybe it was the way the handwriting trembled, like whoever wrote it was struggling just to hold the pen. "I know I have no right to write to you after all these years. 20 years of silence between us feels like a lifetime. But as I sit here in this hospital bed, knowing my time is running short, I can't stop thinking about all the things I should have said." Lisa's hands shook as she continued reading. This wasn't just any letter. This was someone's last chance to make things right. "I was wrong to push you away after your mother died. I was drowning in my own grief and didn't know how to help you with yours. Instead of being the father you needed, I buried myself in my work and let you slip away. I've regretted it every single day since." The letter went on, filled with apologies and memories of better times. It talked about a little girl who used to read books under the kitchen table while her father graded papers, about family trips to the lake where they would catch fireflies in jars, about a daughter who had dreams of becoming a lawyer, just like her father had always wanted to be. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," the letter continued. "I know I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that you were the best thing your mother and I ever did. You were never the problem, Rachel, I was. And if I could go back and do things differently, I would choose you every single time." By the time Lisa finished reading, tears were streaming down her face. She thought about Amy, her own 16-year-old daughter. How many times had they fought this week alone? How many times had Lisa been too tired from work to really listen when Amy tried to talk to her? Lisa looked around the empty room, suddenly realizing what had happened. Someone had lost this letter. Someone who was probably lying in another room somewhere, thinking their last words to their daughter had disappeared forever. She checked the patient information board by the door. The room had belonged to Dr. Robert Hayes, moved to room 318 that afternoon. Lisa had seen the name before on her rounds but had never paid much attention. Now she wondered what kind of man he was. Someone who had been important enough to be called doctor, but was dying alone, writing letters to a daughter who wasn't there. Lisa folded the letter carefully and slipped it into her uniform pocket. She would return it, of course. But first she needed to finish her rounds. As she cleaned the rest of the floor, she couldn't stop thinking about the words she had read. 3 floors up, Dr. Robert Hayes lay awake in his new room, staring at the ceiling. At 67, he had spent most of his life teaching literature at the university. He had analyzed thousands of stories about love, loss, and redemption. But now, living his own story, he felt completely lost. The letter had taken him 3 days to write. His hands shook from the cancer treatments, making each word a struggle. But he had poured everything into those pages. 20 years of regret, guilt, and love he had never known how to express. And now it was gone. The nurses had been kind but busy when he asked about it. They promised to look, but he could see in their eyes that a piece of paper in a hospital this size was like a needle in a haystack. He had thought about trying to write another letter, but he barely had strength for one. The words had come from such a deep place that he wasn't sure he could find them again. Dr. Hayes closed his eyes and tried to remember exactly what he had written. Something about fireflies and kitchen tables. Something about choosing her every single time. But the details were fading, just like everything else seemed to be fading lately. He had Rachel's phone number memorized, had looked it up online months ago when he first got the diagnosis. But calling felt impossible. What do you say to a daughter you haven't spoken to in 20 years? How do you sum up a lifetime of mistakes in a phone conversation? The letter had felt safer somehow. Words on paper that she could read when she was ready, without the pressure of an immediate response. Now even that option was gone. Meanwhile, Lisa finished her work on the 7th floor and made her way back down to the cancer wing. Room 318 was her last stop of the night. She knocked softly and heard a weak voice say, "Come in." Dr. Hayes looked older than she had expected. His gray hair was thin from chemotherapy and his face was gaunt. But his eyes were sharp and kind. Lisa had learned to read people's eyes during her years at the hospital. His held sadness but also intelligence and gentleness. "Just here to clean," Lisa said softly, not wanting to disturb him. "Of course," Dr. Hayes replied. "I'm sorry I'm awake." "I know it's easier when patients are sleeping." Lisa was surprised. Most people barely acknowledged her existence, especially not doctors. "It's okay," she said. "Can't sleep?" Dr. Hayes shook his head. "Lost something important today. Can't stop thinking about it." Lisa's heart pounded as she reached into her pocket and pulled out the letter. "Is this what you're looking for?" The expression on Dr. Hayes's face was something Lisa would never forget. Relief, gratitude, and hope all mixed together. His eyes filled with tears as he reached for the letter with shaking hands. "Where did you find it?" he whispered. "Room 314, it had fallen behind the bed." Dr. Hayes looked at the letter, then at Lisa. Did you read it?" Lisa hesitated, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. "I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have. I just wanted to know who it belonged to so I could return it." But Dr. Hayes wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled for the first time in weeks. "Then you know why this matters so much." Lisa nodded, thinking of Amy waiting at home, probably asleep with her homework still undone on her desk. "Thank you," Dr. Hayes said simply. "You have no idea what this means to me." As Lisa gathered her cleaning supplies, she realized this wasn't just about returning a lost letter. Somehow, in this quiet hospital room, her life had just intersected with someone else's in a way that felt important. She didn't know it yet, but this moment would change everything for both of them. Dr. Hayes held the letter against his chest and closed his eyes. Lisa could see his shoulders shake slightly as he tried to compose himself. She had witnessed a lot of emotional moments working in the hospital, but this felt different, more personal somehow. "I thought I'd lost my last chance," he whispered, opening his eyes to look at her again. "Rachel is my daughter. We haven't spoken in 20 years. Lisa found herself sitting down in the visitor's chair without really meaning to. Something about the way he said his daughter's name made her think of Amy. 20 years is a long time," she said softly. "Too long." Dr. Hayes carefully unfolded the letter, scanning the words he had written with such effort. "I was supposed to mail this weeks ago, but I kept finding excuses. Then when I finally decided to send it, I couldn't find it anywhere." "Maybe you weren't ready before," Lisa suggested. She wasn't sure why she was still sitting here talking to a patient. This wasn't part of her job, but something kept her in that chair. Dr. Hayes looked at her with curiosity. "You said you read it. What did you think?" Lisa felt her cheeks burn again. "I shouldn't have done that. It's private. But you did read it, and you're here, talking to me instead of running away. So what did you think?" Lisa took a deep breath. "I think any daughter would want to know her father loved her, even if it took him 20 years to say it." Dr. Hayes was quiet for a long moment. "You have children?" "A daughter, Amy. She's 16. Lisa smiled, but it was a tired smile. "Some days I feel like I'm failing her just like you felt like you failed Rachel." "How so?" Lisa wasn't sure why she was opening up to a complete stranger, but the words started flowing. "I work 3 jobs just to keep us afloat. I'm never home when she gets back from school. Half the time I'm too exhausted to help with homework or listen when she wants to talk. Last week she said I care more about my jobs than I care about her. Do you?" The question hit harder than Lisa expected. No, everything I do is for her, but maybe she doesn't see it that way. Dr. Hayes nodded slowly. I told myself the same thing for years. That working all the time was for Rachel. That providing for her was the same as being there for her. It wasn't until I lost her that I realized how wrong I was. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside the window, the city was starting to wake up. Lisa could see the first hints of dawn creeping across the sky. Her shift would be over soon, and she'd go home to make breakfast for Amy before catching a few hours of sleep. Are you going to send the letter? Lisa asked. Dr. Hayes looked down at the pages in his hands. I want to, but I'm scared. Of what? What if she doesn't want to hear from me? What if 20 years is too long and too much has happened? What if I hurt her all over again? Lisa thought about Amy, about all the times they'd argued this past month, about how her daughter's face would light up when Lisa managed to make it to a school event, or when they had one of their rare movie nights together. What if she's been waiting for you to reach out? What if she's been just as scared as you are? I hadn't thought of that. When I was Amy's age, my parents got divorced. My dad moved across the country and barely called. I spent years thinking he didn't care about me anymore. It wasn't until I was grown up that I learned he thought I didn't want to hear from him. We wasted so much time because we were both too proud and too scared to make the first move. Dr. Hayes studied her face. What happened? Did you reconnect? Eventually, but it took longer than it should have. And by then, some of the damage was permanent. Lisa stood up, suddenly realizing how much time she'd spent in this room. I should finish my work. My shift ends soon. Wait, Dr. Hayes said quickly. I know this is going to sound strange, but would you mind? Could you help me? Lisa paused by the door. Help you how? I don't know how to reach her. I mean, I have her phone number, but I can't just call after 20 years of silence. The letter feels safer, but what if she doesn't read it? What if she throws it away the moment she sees my name? Lisa turned back around. What are you asking me to do? Dr. Hayes looked embarrassed. I don't really know. I've been alone with this for so long. Having someone to talk to about it, someone who understands. He trailed off. I'm sorry. You probably have your own family to worry about. I shouldn't have asked. But Lisa was already walking back to the chair. Something in his voice reminded her of herself. That feeling of being overwhelmed and not knowing where to start. No, it's okay. Tell me about Rachel. What's she like? Dr. Hayes's whole face changed when he started talking about his daughter. She was always so smart. Even as a little girl, she could argue her way out of anything. She wanted to be a lawyer from the time she was 8 years old. She said she was going to fight for people who couldn't fight for themselves. Did she become a lawyer? I think so. I've looked her up online a few times over the years. She works for a big firm in Seattle. Seems successful. His voice got sad again. But I don't know anything about her personal life. Whether she's married, if I have grandchildren, if she's happy. That must be hard. The hardest part is knowing it's my own fault. After her mother died, I just shut down. Rachel was 17, dealing with her own grief. And instead of helping her through it, I disappeared into my work. I thought if I just kept teaching, kept grading papers, kept my routine, the pain would go away. But all I did was push away the most important person in my life. Lisa found herself leaning forward in her chair. What would you say to her if you could see her tomorrow? That I'm sorry. That I love her. That not a day has gone by that I haven't regretted how I handled things. Dr. Hayes looked at the letter again. That's what I tried to write here, but I'm not sure I got it right. Without really thinking about it, Lisa held out her hand. Can I read it again? Dr. Hayes hesitated for a moment, then handed her the letter. Lisa read through it slowly this time, paying attention to every word. When she finished, she looked up at him with tears in her eyes. This is beautiful, she said. Any daughter would be lucky to receive something like this. You really think so? I know so. But Dr. Hayes, can I ask you something? Of course. Why are you waiting? If you feel all these things, if you've written them down, why haven't you sent it? Dr. Hayes was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, because once I send it, there's no taking it back. Right now, I can still hope that maybe someday we'll reconnect. But if I send this and she doesn't respond, or if she responds badly, then I'll know for sure that I've lost her forever. Lisa understood that fear more than she wanted to admit. It was the same fear that kept her from having serious conversations with Amy. The fear that if she really tried to connect and failed, it would hurt more than the distance they had now. But what if you don't send it? Lisa asked gently. What if you run out of time and never get the chance to try? Dr. Hayes met her eyes. That's exactly what I'm afraid of. Lisa made a decision that surprised even her. What if I helped you figure out the best way to reach out to her? I'm not saying I have all the answers, but sometimes it helps to have someone else think through the options with you. You would do that? But you don't even know me, Lisa smiled. Sometimes the best help comes from people who don't know you well enough to judge you. Besides, maybe talking through your situation will help me figure out my own relationship with Amy. Dr. Hayes looked at her with something that might have been hope. Are you sure? I don't want to impose on your time. My shift ends in an hour, but I could come back tomorrow night. If you want to talk about it, I mean. I would like that very much, Dr. Hayes said quietly. More than you know. As Lisa finally gathered her cleaning supplies to finish her rounds, she realized she had just made a promise that would change both their lives. She didn't know it yet, but this simple offer to help a lonely man reconnect with his daughter would open doors she never knew existed. Lisa kept her promise. The next night, she found herself knocking on Dr. Hayes' door at 2 a.m., after finishing most of her cleaning rounds. She'd been thinking about their conversation all day, even during her afternoon shift at the grocery store. You came back, Dr. Hayes said, his face lighting up when he saw her. I said I would. Lisa pulled the visitor's chair closer to his bed. Have you been thinking about how to contact Rachel? Dr. Hayes nodded. I haven't been able to think about anything else. I even tried to find her work number online, but then I imagined calling her office and having her assistant ask who I am. He shook his head. How do you explain that you're the father who disappeared from her life 20 years ago? Lisa had been thinking about this too. What about starting smaller? Maybe not jumping straight into a phone call or even the full letter? What do you mean? Well, you know she's a lawyer in Seattle, right? What if you sent her a simple card first? Something that just says you're thinking about her and that you'd like to talk. Test the waters before diving in with the big emotional letter. Dr. Hayes considered this. That's actually not a bad idea. Less overwhelming for both of us, exactly. And if she responds positively, then you know she's open to hearing more. They spent the next hour crafting different versions of a simple message. Dr. Hayes would write a few lines. Then Lisa would suggest changes to make them sound less formal or more heartfelt. It reminded Lisa of helping Amy with her school essays, except this time the stakes felt much higher. How about this? Lisa suggested. Dear Rachel, I think about you often and wonder how you're doing. I know I have no right to ask, but I'd love to hear from you if you're willing. Love, Dad. Dr. Hayes wrote it down carefully. It's simple, but maybe that's good. Sometimes simple is better. It doesn't pressure her to respond, but it opens the door. You're quite good at this, Dr. Hayes said, looking at her with new respect. Do you have experience with difficult family situations? Lisa laughed, but not in a happy way. More than I'd like. My family has never been great at talking to each other. We're all too stubborn and too scared of getting hurt. Including with Amy? Lisa's smile faded. Especially with Amy. She wanted to talk to me yesterday about some problem at school, but I was so tired from working that I just told her we'd discuss it later. Of course, later never came. This morning she barely looked at me. Dr. Hayes set down his pen. What kind of problem? I don't know. That's the worst part. It could be anything from boy trouble to bullying to failing a class, and I'm so caught up in just surviving day to day that I'm missing everything important. It's not too late to ask her about it. I know, but... Lisa stopped herself. I'm doing exactly what you're doing with Rachel, aren't I? Making excuses instead of just reaching out. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Dr. Hayes said with a sad smile. Two people too scared to talk to the people we love most. Over the next week, Lisa found herself stopping by Dr. Hayes' room every night during her break. What started as helping him with Rachel had turned into something much more. They talked about everything, their fears, their regrets, their hopes. Dr. Hayes told her about his years as a literatu. Frey professor, how he'd loved teaching students to find meaning in books and stories. Lisa told him about her abandoned dream of becoming a nurse, how she'd been pre-med in college before she got pregnant and had to drop out. You wanted to be a nurse? Dr. Hayes asked one night, looking surprised. Still do sometimes, but it's too late now. I'm 42, I've been out of school for over 20 years, and I can barely afford rent, let alone tuition. It's never too late, Dr. Hayes said firmly, and you'd be an excellent nurse. How can you say that? You barely know me. I know enough. I've watched you with the patients on this floor. You notice things the other staff miss. You're gentle with people who are scared and hurting. You listen." He paused. "Those are the most important qualities a nurse can have." Lisa felt her cheeks warm. It had been a long time since anyone had said anything encouraging about her abilities. Even if that's true, it's not practical. "I have Amy to think about." "What does Amy think about it?" "I've never told her. She just knows I clean hospitals and stock shelves at the grocery store. Not exactly inspiring career goals for her to look up to." Dr. Hayes was quiet for a moment. "Can I tell you something? Some of my best students were older students who came back to school after raising families. They brought a perspective and determination that the younger students didn't have. Life experience matters. But the science classes, the studying, I probably can't even remember basic biology anymore. Want to test that theory?" Before Lisa could protest, Dr. Hayes started asking her simple questions about the human body. To her surprise, she knew more than she thought. Years of working in hospitals had taught her things she didn't realize she'd learned. "See?" Dr. Hayes said after she correctly explained how blood pressure worked. "You've been getting an informal medical education this whole time." That night marked a turning point in their friendship. Dr. Hayes began bringing medical textbooks to their conversations, explaining concepts and helping Lisa remember things she'd forgotten from her college days. He said it gave him purpose, reminded him why he'd loved teaching. "You know what you should do?" Lisa said one night as they finished going over basic anatomy. "You should talk to Rachel about teaching. Maybe that's something you could share again." "What do you mean?" "Well, you're helping me learn and it's clearly making you happy. Maybe Rachel would like to know that part of you is still there. The father who used to help her with homework." Dr. Hayes looked thoughtful. "I hadn't considered that. I've been so focused on apologizing that I forgot there might be good things to rebuild on." Their conversations weren't just helping Dr. Hayes prepare to contact Rachel. They were changing Lisa too. For the first time in years, she felt like someone saw potential in her beyond just being a hard worker trying to get by. "I talked to Amy last night," Lisa told him during their next visit. "Really talked to her. About the problem at school she'd wanted to discuss." "How did it go?" "Better than I expected. Turns out she's been getting picked on by some girls in her class and she didn't know how to handle it. We talked through some strategies and I promised to check in with her about it every day." "That's wonderful." She also asked me something I wasn't expecting. She wanted to know why I never went back to school to become a nurse. Apparently she found some of my old textbooks in the closet and figured it out. Dr. Hayes leaned forward. "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That I was scared it was too late. That we couldn't afford it, that I didn't think I was smart enough anymore." Lisa paused. "But then I also told her about our conversations, about how you've been helping me remember things I thought I'd forgotten." She said something that really surprised me. "What's that?" She said she'd be proud to have a mom who was a nurse. That maybe if I went after my dreams, it would inspire her to go after hers too. Dr. Hayes smiled wider than Lisa had seen since they'd met. "Smart girl. She gets that from her mother." Maybe. Or maybe she just needed to see that her mother was willing to take risks for something important. "Speaking of taking risks," Dr. Hayes said, "I mailed the card to Rachel yesterday." Lisa felt her heart skip. "You did? How do you feel about it?" "Terrified, hopeful, grateful." He looked at her. "I couldn't have done it without you." Having someone believe in the possibility of reconnection made it feel less impossible. And having someone believe in my dreams made them feel possible again too, Lisa replied. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both thinking about the chances they were taking. Neither of them knew that within days, both their lives would take dramatic turns that would test everything they'd learned about courage, hope, and the power of human connection. But for now, it was enough to know they weren't facing their fears alone anymore. 3 days after Dr. Hayes mailed the card, his phone rang. Lisa was in his room at the time, helping him with some physical therapy exercises the nurses had shown him. They both froze when they heard the ringtone. It might not be her, Dr. Hayes whispered, staring at the phone like it might bite him. Only one way to find out, Lisa said gently. Dr. Hayes picked up the phone with shaking hands. Hello? Lisa watched his face change completely. His eyes filled with tears and he sat down heavily on the edge of his bed. Rachel, he breathed. You called. Lisa couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she could tell from Dr. Hayes's expressions that it wasn't going smoothly. His initial joy faded into something more complicated. I understand, he said quietly. Yes, I know it's been too long. No, I don't expect you to forgive me. Yes, I'm really sick. I know you don't owe me anything. The conversation lasted about 10 minutes. When Dr. Hayes hung up, he looked exhausted. She's coming, he said, but he didn't sound happy about it. That's good news, isn't it? I'm not sure. She sounded so angry, Lisa, and hurt. She said she's only coming because she needs to see for herself that I'm really dying. She doesn't want to have regrets later, but she made it clear that this doesn't mean she's forgiven me. Lisa sat down next to him. What did you expect? 20 years of hurt doesn't disappear with one phone call. I know. I just hoped. He trailed off. She's flying in tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to say to her. You'll figure it out, and I'll be here if you need someone to talk to afterward. Dr. Hayes looked at her gratefully. Would you consider meeting her? I know it's a lot to ask, but having you here has helped me so much. Maybe it would help the conversation go more smoothly. Lisa hesitated. Meeting his estranged daughter felt like stepping into something very personal and complicated. But she'd come this far. If you think it would help. The next evening, Lisa found herself more nervous than usual as she made her way to Dr. Hayes's room. She'd met Amy for dinner earlier and told her about the situation. Amy had been surprisingly supportive. You're helping people, Mom, Amy had said. That's what you've always been good at. Maybe this is practice for when you become a nurse. Amy's words gave Lisa confidence as she knocked on Dr. Hayes's door. She heard voices inside and realized Rachel had already arrived. Come in, Dr. Hayes called. Lisa opened the door to find a woman in her 30s sitting stiffly in the visitor's chair. Rachel looked like she could be Dr. Hayes's daughter. Same intelligent eyes, same stubborn set to her jaw. But where his face showed kindness and regret, hers showed carefully controlled anger. Rachel, this is Lisa, Dr. Hayes said nervously. She's the one who found the letter I told you about. She's become a good friend. Rachel looked Lisa up and down, taking in her hospital uniform. You're a nurse? No, I clean the hospital, Lisa said simply. I just happened to find your father's letter and returned it to him. Something shifted in Rachel's expression. She'd clearly expected someone different. And now you're involved in our family business because... Lisa felt the hostility but tried not to take it personally. This woman was protecting herself the only way she knew how. I'm not trying to get involved in anything. Your father mentioned he was nervous about seeing you, and I offered to listen if he needed to talk. That's all. Dr. Hayes looked between them anxiously. Lisa has been very helpful. She helped me find the courage to reach out to you. How thoughtful, Rachel said, but her tone was ice cold. The conversation that followed was one of the most uncomfortable things Lisa had ever witnessed. Rachel asked direct, painful questions about why Dr. Hayes had abandoned her after her mother's death. She wanted to know where he'd been during her graduation from law school, her wedding, her divorce, all the major moments of her life. Dr. Hayes answered honestly, which somehow made it worse. He admitted he'd known about these events but had convinced himself she didn't want him there. He told her about all the times he'd picked up the phone to call her but had hung up before dialing. So you were a coward, Rachel said bluntly. You let your guilt make decisions for both of us. Yes, Dr. Hayes said simply. I was a coward. Lisa could see that his honesty was throwing Rachel off balance. She'd clearly come prepared for excuses and denials, not raw admission of fault. I don't know what you expect from me, Rachel said, her voice starting to crack. I can't just pretend the last 20 years didn't happen. I needed my father and you weren't there. I had to figure out how to be an adult completely on my own. You did an amazing job, Dr. Hayes said quietly. You became me everything your mother and I always knew you could be. Don't you dare bring Mom into this, Rachel snapped. You don't get to talk about what she would have wanted. If she could see how you abandoned me after she died. She broke off, tears finally spilling over. Lisa's heart ached watching this family try to navigate 20 years of pain in one conversation. Rachel, Lisa said gently, speaking for the first time in several minutes. Can I ask you something? Rachel wiped her eyes and looked at her suspiciously. What? What would it look like if this conversation went well? What would you want to happen here? The question seemed to catch Rachel off guard. I don't know. I came here expecting to be angry. I've been angry for so long. You have every right to be angry, Lisa said. But you also came here. You could have just thrown away his card, but you didn't. You got on a plane and flew across the country to see him. That means something. Rachel looked at her father, then back at Lisa. Are you a therapist or something? No. I'm a single mother trying to figure out how to have a better relationship with my own teenage daughter. I'm probably the last person who should be giving family advice. Lisa paused. But I've spent the last 2 weeks watching your father struggle with how much he loves you and regrets losing you. And I've spent 20 years watching my own family avoid difficult conversations because we're all too scared of getting hurt. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe the question isn't whether you can forgive 20 years of absence. Maybe the question is whether you want to try building something new from where you are right now. Dr. Hayes looked at Lisa with amazement. Rachel was quiet for a long time, thinking. Finally, Rachel spoke. I looked you up, she said to her father. After I got your card, I found articles you'd written, interviews about your teaching, students talking about how much your classes meant to them. It made me angry all over again because I remembered that version of you, the father who used to read to me and help me with my homework. That person is still here, Dr. Hayes said softly. He just got lost for a while. How do I know you won't disappear again? How do I know this isn't just because you're dying and feeling guilty? Dr. Hayes was quiet for a moment. You don't know. I can't prove that to you with words. All I can do is promise to try for whatever time I have left. Rachel looked at Lisa again. You really think he's changed? Lisa chose her words carefully. I think he's a man who made terrible mistakes and knows it. I think he spent every day for 20 years wishing he could take them back. And I think he loves you more than he knows how to express. She paused. But you're the only one who can decide if that's enough to work with. The room fell silent. Outside, the city hummed with its usual nighttime energy. But inside this small hospital room, a family was trying to decide if they could find their way back to each other. Rachel stood up suddenly. I need some air. It's a lot. Of course, Dr. Hayes said quickly. Take all the time you need. After Rachel left, Dr. Hayes turned to Lisa with tears in his eyes. Thank you. I don't know what I would have said without you here. She came back, Lisa pointed out. That's what matters. She's not running away. Do you think there's hope? Lisa thought about Amy, about all the difficult conversations they'd had lately that had actually brought them closer together. I think love finds a way even when it seems impossible, but it's going to take time. Neither of them knew that Rachel was standing just outside the door, listening to their conversation and trying to decide if she was brave enough to believe in second chances. Rachel came back an hour later. Lisa was still sitting with Dr. Hayes, both of them pretending to watch the late-night news while actually worrying about whether she would return at all. I've been thinking, Rachel said as she sat back down, and I want to try something. Dr. Hayes straightened up hopefully. Anything. I want you to tell me about teaching. Lisa said you've been helping her learn medical concepts. I want to see that side of you again. Lisa started to excuse herself, thinking this was a private family moment, but Rachel stopped her. Stay. You're part of this now, whether any of us planned it or not. So Lisa found herself witnessing something beautiful. Dr. Hayes began explaining how the heart worked, using simple terms and drawing diagrams on a napkin. As he talked, his whole demeanor changed. This was the teacher, the father who had once helped a little girl with her homework. Rachel watched intently, and Lisa could see her recognizing glimpses of the parent she remembered. You're still good at this, Rachel said quietly when he finished. It's what I've always loved most, Dr. Hayes replied, helping people understand complex things, making learning feel possible. Is that why you became a professor instead of a lawyer like you'd originally planned? Dr. Hayes looked surprised. You remember that? I remember everything, Dad. That's the problem. They talked until almost dawn, not just about the past, but about the present too. Rachel told him about her work, her recent divorce, her struggles with trusting people. Dr. Hayes shared stories from his years of teaching, his regrets about not reaching out sooner, his pride in what she'd accomplished. Lisa mostly listened, but occasionally she'd ask a question that helped them dig deeper or clarify something important. She was amazed at how much they had in common, how similar their thought processes were despite decades apart. When Rachel finally left that morning, she hugged her father for the first time in 20 years. It wasn't a complete reconciliation, but it was a beginning. Will you come back? Dr. Hayes asked. I'm staying in town for a week, Rachel said. We'll see how it goes. Over the next few days, Rachel visited every afternoon. Sometimes Lisa was there during her dinner break. Sometimes it was just father and daughter. Slowly, carefully, they began rebuilding something new from the pieces of what they'd lost. Rachel was amazed by the friendship between Lisa and her father. "I've never seen him connect with someone like this," she told Lisa one evening. "He was always so formal with people, so distant. But with you, he's different." "He's been good for me too," Lisa admitted. "He's helped me remember that I'm more than just someone who works multiple jobs to get by. He's made me feel smart again." "Are you really thinking about going back to school for nursing?" Lisa nodded. "It still seems impossible financially, but he's convinced me I could handle the academic part, and Amy is excited about it. She said if I can be brave enough to chase my dreams, it gives her permission to chase hers too." "What does she want to do?" "She's interested in becoming a teacher, actually. Apparently, watching me help her father with his teaching has inspired her." Rachel smiled. Everything comes full circle, doesn't it? But their time was running short. Dr. Hayes's condition worsened rapidly over the following weeks. Rachel extended her stay indefinitely, taking leave from her law firm to be with him. Lisa continued her nightly visits, now often finding Rachel there too. The three of them became an unlikely family of sorts. Rachel and Lisa discovered they had more in common than either had expected. Both were strong women who had learned to rely on themselves. Both had complicated relationships with the idea of letting people help them. "I judged you so harshly at first," Rachel admitted one night while Dr. Hayes slept. "I thought you were taking advantage of a sick old man somehow." "I would have thought the same thing in your position," Lisa said. "You were protecting your father. I was protecting myself. I didn't want to share him with anyone else, even someone who was helping him. I'd already lost him once." Dr. Hayes passed away on a Tuesday morning in late November. Both women were with him, holding his hands as he quietly stopped breathing. In his final weeks, he had managed to give Rachel many of the conversations they'd missed over the years, and he'd helped Lisa see possibilities for her future she'd never imagined. At the funeral, Lisa was surprised to see how many former students came to pay their respects. One after another, they told stories about how Dr. Hayes had changed their lives, encouraged their dreams, believed in them when they didn't believe in themselves. "He did the same thing for you," Rachel said as they listened to the stories. "And for me in the end." After the service, Rachel approached Lisa with an envelope. "Dad asked me to give this to you." Inside was a letter and a check that made Lisa's hands shake. It was enough money to cover her entire nursing program, with extra for living expenses while she studied. "I can't accept this," Lisa said immediately. "Read the letter." First, Dr. Hayes had written about how Lisa's friendship had given him the greatest gift of his final months, the chance to reconcile with Rachel and to feel useful again as a teacher. He said investing in her education wasn't charity. It was an investment in all the patients she would help and all the families she would comfort in her career as a nurse. He also left money for Amy's college fund, Rachel added. He said every child deserves to chase their dreams. Lisa was crying too hard to speak. "There's something else," Rachel continued. "I'm starting a scholarship foundation in his memory for single parents who want to pursue healthcare careers. I'd like you to help me run it. If you're interested, you want me to work with you? Dad was right about your potential. But more than that, you helped give me my father back. I can't think of anyone I'd rather honor his memory with." 2 years later, Lisa walked across the stage at her nursing school graduation. In the audience sat Amy, now a confident high school senior planning to study education, and Rachel, who had become like a sister to her. Lisa's first job was in the oncology ward at Northwestern Memorial, the same floor where she'd once pushed a cleaning cart. Now she walked those halls as Nurse Chen, providing comfort and care to patients and families facing the hardest moments of their lives. She often thought about that night when she found Dr. Hayes's lost letter. How a simple decision to return it to its owner had changed everything. How offering to help a lonely, scared man had opened doors she never knew existed. "Every life we touch touches other lives," Dr. Hayes had told her once. That's the real magic of human connection. The Scholarship Foundation had already helped dozens of people pursue healthcare careers. Amy was thriving in school and had started volunteering at the hospital, inspired by her mother's transformation. Rachel had moved back to Chicago and was practicing family law, often taking cases for people who reminded her of Lisa, hardworking people who just needed someone to believe in them. On quiet nights in the hospital, Lisa would sometimes pass by room 318, where she'd first sat down to help a dying man reconnect with his daughter. The room looked the same, but everything else had changed. She understood now that the invitation that changed their lives forever wasn't just her offer to help Dr. Hayes. It was his willingness to accept help, Rachel's decision to take a chance on forgiveness, and all their choices to believe that it's never too late to become who you're meant to be. Sometimes the smallest acts of courage create the biggest changes. Sometimes a stranger's kindness can unlock possibilities you never knew existed. And sometimes, when you offer to help someone else find their way, you end up finding your own path too. The story that began with a lost letter had become a story about found family, second chances, and the extraordinary things that happen when ordinary people choose to care about each other.